guys, it's Nancy here, and I'm back with my last video for my blog post with HLM Magpie this month. And what I decided to do is take these papers that are very kind of homemadey kind of themed, very crafty themed, and kind of apply them in, you know, a non-crafty sort of context. Because of course I've done my crochet blanket, and I also had a photo of us like giving a homemade present. So I saw my bestie last month and had loads and loads of pictures. That is what normally happens, you know, when we go out. And I decided to make these into a photo strip. I'd cut apart all my cards, so those 3x4 cards, so I just stuck that together so I could create a photo mat from that, and because you can hardly really see it even behind the photos. Originally I was going to go with that side of the paper, but I do end up changing it. And I love that side of the paper, but it just wasn't quite working. So I had those offcuts from that Amelia paper from 7 Paper, and that's just going to help make those pop. I do love doing slanty angle photo strips. Tends to be, if I've got a photo strip, I tend to like it on a slanty angle. So I've just turned over the paper, and then this is the one that I'm going to go with, which has lots of words about creating, being original, etc, etc. And I really like the sentiment on that card, which says, "On rainy days, create your own sunshine," which I really liked because, you know, I think it talks about friendship, you know, even though when times are bad, even having the, you know, hour and a half out actually just really helps, just, you know, to kind of realise that there's, you know, there's good stuff going on amongst all the craziness. So I'm going to do what I normally do, which is just trim this down to then create sort of a background piece. And this is just a piece of cardstock from my stash. It's just a burnt orange kind of colour, and that was just going to pick up the orange tones. So again, this is nothing unusual, it's kind of what I normally do, and I'm just going to be mounting up that photo strip again, just because, as I say, it had those kind of 2 pieces of joined paper. And I really love these sort of candid shots as well, they're just really funny. So I've just made a bit of a photo mat up with that, and now I'm going to kind of start looking at my layers. And now I'm just using a little bit of my wet glue, because I always find with smaller pictures they're kind of a bit harder to stick down, because I tend to only put my glue in the middle anyway. So that's really boring, and I probably should have cut that out, but that is what I'm doing there. So now I'm going to start working on placing my clusters here, and just using that black is just going to help ground everything. Now I'm going to add some more kind of texture to the background there, because it wasn't busy enough for me. So I'm going to take my roller stamp out, and again just using my pencil to roughly mark where things are, because we all know I do loads of background work, a really cool technique, and then it gets covered up. So I'm trying to be a little bit wiser and use my pencil, kind of mark that out. So I've just taken that roller stamp, one of my favourite roller stamps ever, from the DIY edition from American Crafts. I'm still really bummed out that they never done any more Breyers. So annoying. But yeah, I really love how that came out. And I'm just using a variety of inks I've got on my desk here. Again, this is a Glitz Design roller stamp. Again, love it, one of my favourites. This is a little triangle one. I'm just going to build up some texture there. And I really love how that came out. And now I'm doing another one of my favourite techniques, which is kind of the scribbling with the end of the ink sprayer. And I love how this looks. And I do realise that I always tend to do it with the same colours. It always tends to be the kind of pinks and the oranges and the yellows. But I must scrap with those colours quite a lot anyway. But yeah, I really love how this technique looks, and it just adds a kind of little bit of a free-throw kind of scribble to the background, which I really love how it looks. So of course, I'm going to have to wait for this to dry as well. I'm also going to put some ink spots on there. And I really love these dilutions, because they're such saturated colours. You could do something similar probably with some watercolour as well. But yeah, I really love how that looks. So I just stopped the video while I dried that with my heat gun. And now I'm going to start building up that texture. You can still read the words and stuff through it, so it does work fine. But I just love how it kind of just grounds everything on that crazy background. So if in doubt, cut a fishtail end in it, which is what I normally do with my banner pieces. And so I really love how that looks. So I'm going to use that as my title card. Instead, again, that was from the cut apart sheet. And I'm trying to work out if I want that on a jaunty angle or not. Because I always find, you know, if you're doing jaunty angles, it has to be at kind of such a deliberate angle that it definitely looks like it's jaunty, not that you were just a bit drunk while doing the layout. And I'm obviously not drunk because I'm sitting in my pyjamas while doing this layout. So originally I thought about using my circle punch to cut out these embroidery frame hoops, but I didn't like the white random, but I'm going to kind of go with it for a bit. And then I remembered that there was embroidery hoops in the die cut pack, so I will end up replacing those. But yeah, it's kind of I kind of know what I want to do. I want to have some clusters, but this layout took me probably about 50 minutes, and I do realise kind of quite near towards the end that I don't have a place for journaling. I'm trying to get much better at thinking about where I'm going to put my journaling on my layouts, because when I was going through my American albums, there was a few pages that I hadn't actually journaled on, and then when I went back to journal on them, the story and stuff, there was not actually a place for it, so I ended up having to put it on the back and things, which I don't mind doing, but if, especially in a holiday album you're going to share with other people, it kind of negates the whole point really. So yeah, that was a little bit annoying, so I'm trying to be much more conscious about thinking where I'm going to put those journaling pieces. So there you saw me just pull out this die cut pack, and I pulled out a few of the labels and those bigger embroidery hoops, and then I pulled out all of the flowers as well. There was lots of flowers within this collection pack, and I hadn't really used them on anything, so I thought, okay, I'm just going to get them all out and use them all on this layout, which, you know, is fine. I think sometimes, you know, people feel, and not guilty, but feel a bit kind of like, I don't know, I think there's kind of almost a guilt in using like a whole one product on one layout, but it's better that you use it than it sits in your stash, because I knew that if I say use 3 of these flowers, that probably I'd never use the other flowers because I'd never have anything that style or colour. So I thought, yeah, I'm just going to use them all up. So I'm trying to get my base layers down, and then I'm going to add the flowers around it. And I really like, it's just really simple clustering here. And as you can see, most of that craziness in the background is covered, but it just the bits that peek out just kind of adds a little bit of interest to the layout. I'm just taking my phone tape here and using that to pop up that word happy. Again, it could be a title, it could be a subtitle, but I really like those sort of cross-stitch effect words. I'm just using my I don't think I'm using my pokey tool though. Yes, I am using my beloved pokey tool just to pull off that dreadful backing on that 3D tape. I said I just like just that little bit of height. It's one of my favourite tapes to use at the moment. It's just the right height completely. So now I'm going to be pulling these flowers out and kind of working in building my clusters. So I've kind of like these kind of 2 clusters at the moment, and I realise I really need to balance it out with a third. So I do start to build some at the bottom there under that word happy, but then I think I'm going to end up building another cluster in. I say I'm not gluing this down, I'm just sort of playing with them at the moment. Sorry guys, just had to have a yawn there. So yeah, I'm now going to be taking my glue and just sticking these down, because if you faff too much, they'll never get stuck down. So just tucking these in between some other bits and layers here, lifting up some bits. The only bit that's a problem really to lift up is the 3D foam. That can be a little bit tricky, but normally I don't put glue right to the edges, so I can easily lift those layers up. So what I'm now kind of thinking is, where am I going to do my journaling? So I'm kind of looking at this, and again it's looking a little bit kind of empty where that black star piece of paper is. I love that paper, but it is a little bit stark. It's like, what's that doing there? It's not kind of quite sitting right. So as I'm kind of building up this cluster, I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, not sure. Which I think, as you sort of scrap more and more and you kind of find your own style, you tend to kind of realise when, for you, things are a little bit off balance. And that's kind of what I noted while doing this. And I knew that I couldn't really write on that background paper either. Not only because I've been doing all that inking and things, but because it already had text in it. And I find writing on text is just wrong. I can't compute in my head and read it very well. So I could have cut this out because this is just a lot of faffing with those flower pieces and tucking them in the different layers. So I'm now just looking here at the Jelly Bean Soup Alphas, and I'm just going to be putting the date on. And so you do get enough on though to, you know, do a couple of dates at least, which is good. So I'm just seeing if I want to put any more sort of titling or anything on there, which I'm not really sure I wanted to do. So then pull out the sticker sheet and look at the stickers I've got. I want to start pulling bits and pieces up. I like this one that said beautiful, but realised it was overhanging the edge, and then that I was going to be mounting it on orange paper, so it would have absolutely no contrast to the edge. So I decided to try and move that across, and I'm now just pulling that cluster across a little bit, which is going to help to kind of balance out that orange at the top as well. And again, just taking different little bits and pieces here and slotting them round. So there's some arrows on here that I like, so I'm going to work at fitting those in. I really like this arrow. I like to have arrows pointing at photos. And I've got, again, you can see that zigzag pattern is on that arrow. It's on that tag at the bottom where I've just stuck that green polka dot one, and there. So again, you've kind of got in three places. And that's just something that I kind of, you know, the rule of third I talk about a lot. That's kind of what I like to do. So this is where I kind of pull down that cluster, and I was just looking if any of the journaling cards in this pack worked. It didn't, so I just take this one, which is from the Sunshine edition, and that's going to work perfectly because it's a teal turquoise, which works perfectly with this collection. And it's got the lines on, so it's an obvious place for me to do my journaling. So I'm just going to have to pull up a couple of stickers here to enable me to pop this down. But that's fine, and that ends up just tucking in there, again at a bit of a jaunty angle to enable me to do my journaling. And I'm just kind of working out where I want to put different bits and pieces. I'm going to move that arrow back up to top where I originally had it, and then just build a little bit of a cluster there at the bottom. And for me now, just looking at it, it's much more balanced to the eye, much more pleasing. Pulling that orange sticker across to that side and that other orange chocolate at the top of the journaling card, it just kind of flows quite nicely together. I am also using an orange little label there as well, just to ground that other arrow. And then I realised I hadn't used any of the rub-ons, so I'm just going to take that one rub-on and add that to that arrow there. So I did struggle a little bit with some of these rub-ons. And then this is a heart, another little embroidery hoop one, so again I'm just going to tuck that behind that arrow. A piece of my journaling can work around that. Crazy hair in the way again. I must say these rub-ons worked really, really well. Too well, because as I said, I dropped that one slightly on that sticker sheet and it stuck. So, yeah, I'm never going to love rub-ons. This is never going to happen. But they worked really well. And just popping it there, just looked fab. So I've just added a tiny little heart there on top. And I'm just kind of looking if I need sort of anything else. Just checking everything was stuck on. And I'm now going to just mount it on my back piece. So I'm really pleased with how this came out. I hope that you also like this and kind of see another way of seeing it of using this collection. I'm going to put some photos here at the end, so thank you much guys for watching, and do go and check out my blog post as well because I made a couple of cards. Alright, cheers, thanks, bye!